Alison from Alison's Notebook, and welcome back to the Awkward Art of Self-Improvement. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you guys how I was able to decide between Atticus. Everybody wants to play right now. This is Atticus, by the way. He's my firstborn. He's my first dog. Welcome back to the Awkward Art of Self-Improvement. In today's video, I'm going to be going over how I decided to change from one job to another earlier this year. I think a lot of times when people are making a decision, they just make a simple pros and cons list. I find for myself personally that a simple pros and cons list isn't enough. I tend to put my own personal bias in there, whether it's conscious or not, because it's so easy to see like what the winner is going to be. So I was able to kind of make a spin on a pros and cons list that I thought was kind of unique, and the great thing about it was that I was able to make a decision without letting my bias enter the decision. It made me be a lot more confident in the decision that I ultimately made. So if you guys want advice on how to decide between two jobs or deciding between two options in general without including your own personal bias, then just keep watching. Now, I'll start off by saying as well that I have a download down below where you can get the spreadsheet that I use. I actually did all of this in a journal, but I realized that what I'm saying is going to sound really confusing. So the way that I determined which job I was going to take, I did start by kind of making a pros and cons list. So there are lots of things that you consider when you're making a decision. For a job specifically, some of the things that I was thinking about were the commute, how much money I was going to be making, work culture, whether I would have my own office or not, whether the career path was something I was interested in, the reputation of each company, professional development opportunities, so how much they were going to train me, benefits, insurance, and there was a host of other factors. All of the ones that I considered I'll have in that download down below. But those are all things that are important when you're making the decision. And so what's hard though is that sometimes the difference between those two is bigger than other times. So if I just do a simple pros and cons list, I'm gonna probably think of whichever option I'm leaning towards subconsciously, I tend to make more pros on, or whichever option I think I should take, or that's more comfortable to take. Like if it requires less change, it might be more comfortable. I tend to put my bias in there whether I realize it or not. So what I did instead was I wrote down the differences. So for example, at my old job, the commute was 40 minutes each way. So about an hour and a half every single day that I was on the road. And the new job was only about 15 minutes. So that adds up to like 10 to 20 hours of drive time difference between the two. So I wrote that out. The next thing I did was I rated those details. And this is where I became blind to what the ultimate results would be. So for some things, like let's say compensation at one job is 20,000, compensation at another job is 100,000. Obviously that's a huge difference, right? But if it wasn't that important to me, then I would rate it a little bit differently. So for example, work culture is important to me, but it's not the top most important thing that I need right now in my life. So at the current company, I knew they had outstanding work culture. I rated it a 3 out of 5. For the new company, I rated it a 2 out of 5 for work culture because I knew it wouldn't be really bad. I just didn't know what it was going to be. And also, I didn't want to make the difference like a 1 versus a 5 because to me, it wasn't a top priority item. Another thing that was important to me because we're trying to pay off debt and save for retirement and things like that, which probably is a whole other video, but that's one thing I really want to prioritize in the next couple of years is paying off as much non-house debt as possible. So the salary was really important to me. And so I had the salary difference. It's a significant difference. It's not like huge, but it's a pretty good difference. So for me, the current job, I gave that a 1, and the new job, I gave that a 5 because that was something that was really important to me. And the new job had a better salary. So all of those items I rated, and then that score became the total. And the difference in that total ended up being a little bigger than I thought it was going to be. It was a total of about 10. And if you guys look at that spreadsheet, you can see kind of how I came up with that number and scored it. But that was really helpful to see the difference between the two and not really know what the answer would be because all of those totals, they varied so much. So I hope that makes sense to you guys. Basically, instead of just doing a simple pros and cons list, like which one is better, which one is worse, rating it in a way that you can also include the importance to you and your personal goals. Even if the most important thing to you is how much money you make, you still have to consider the entire compensation package. So that's the second thing I'll say is the weighted pros and cons list instead of a regular pros and cons list, and the total compensation package. So the new job I was going to, they basically just told me what the salary was. My old job paid 100% medical, dental, and vision. They had a life insurance policy. They did 401k matching. They had bonus potential. And so if the new company didn't have any of those things, it would not be a very big financial difference to change jobs. And so that's a really important thing to remember, is what the total compensation package is, and to get it in writing if it's possible, which I was able to do just to make sure that I had all the information. The last thing I'll say, besides pros and cons list, total compensation package, making a decision in your life, specifically a job change, is to listen to your intuition. Now, this is tricky in this situation because a change requires stress. And also a change, whether it's a positive change or a negative change, requires the loss of something. And so that means you're gonna have to grieve. Even if you're making a positive change, you're still walking away from something. Even if it's something bad, you still have to process those feelings around the loss. So my point in saying all of that is sometimes your intuition is tricky to follow in situations like this because either option can be stressful. And sometimes I had a friend who left a job that he was frustrated with for a long time, and I think he probably left it too soon. He missed out on his bonus and he quit in like December. He also ended up going into a new company that wasn't a very good fit for him and also wasn't doing well financially, and they ended up laying him off. When you're making a decision and when you're deciding to follow your intuition, make sure it's not an entirely emotional decision. Make sure you have all the facts. My intuition ended up being right. There were some things that kind of shook out after I gave my notice at my old job, and that really just gave me confidence that I made the right decision. And they're gonna grow for it. You know, I told them when I left that, like, I know that this decision isn't just the best decision for me. I'm not leaving knowing that I'm like screwing you or that you're gonna be in a bad position. I'm leaving knowing that I have reached my potential here for now and that I need the next thing for me and that you guys need the next thing for you. So I think that's really important when you're making a decision that you feel good about where you're leaving. Not that I'm responsible for people's feelings or successes or failures, but I felt really good about the time that I left and when I left. So I hope that's helpful for you guys. Like I said, that guide is going to be down below. I think it's easier to follow along and kind of see the example of what I wrote in my journal, and you can use that as a guide when making a decision as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!
Even my cat loves your show!